Wasn't expecting that. All right, so I guess it's time. It's fair to say it's time now. But I would like to welcome everybody to the November the 7th, 2022 regularly scheduled council meeting. We certainly appreciate people coming out on these nice warm evenings in November, which is a surprise as well. Having said all of that, thank you for coming. And Kim, if you'll please call the roll.
Mr. Owens?
Here.
Mr. Anderson?
Here.
Ms. Pillion? Here. Ms. Quetch? Here. And Mayor Webb?
Here. At this time, I'd like to ask Councilmember Mike Owens to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to
the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Mr. Owens. And that brings us to our prayer. Tonight, I have the distinct honor of welcoming Miss Barbara Farmer, the Associate Pastor from Pleasant View United Methodist, to lead us in prayer.
Thank you, Mayor Webb and council members. It's my privilege to be here. I'll try that again. Thank you, Mayor Webb and council members, and again I say it's my privilege to be here. So would you pray with me? Father, I truly do thank you for this privilege, the privilege of being present in a governing body in a place like Abingdon, Virginia. I thank you, Father, for this good place to live, and I thank you for these folks who come and work from day to day and week to week and even year to year to make it continue to be a good place to live. So tonight, Father, I ask that their decisions would be made based on integrity and quality of cooperation among this group and for the interest of our whole community. So bless them, Father, and bless their efforts on our behalf. In the name of the one we serve, Christ our Lord. Amen.
Thank you, Barbara. All right, council. That brings us to the approval of the agenda. At this time, if there's no changes that you guys want to make to the agenda, I would entertain a motion to approve it as is.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second that.
All right, motion by Mr. Owens, second by Mr. Anderson. Any discussion, council? Hearing none, Kim, if you'll please call the roll.
Mr. Owens?
Aye.
Mr. Anderson?
Aye.
Ms. Pillion? Aye. Ms. Quetch? Aye. And Mayor Webb?
Aye. That brings us to public comments, and we don't have anybody signed up in the public comments section. We do have some public hearing speakers that are coming, but we'll move on then to the approval of the minutes. Council, we've had 3 actual meetings over the past 30 days or so. The first one was the September the 29th, 2022 joint meeting with the county. Then we had the October 3rd, 2022 meeting and the October 20th, 2022 meeting. If there are no changes to those minutes, I would entertain a motion to adopt all 3 at one time.
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
I'll make that motion.
All right, motion by Ms. Pillion. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Second by Vice Mayor Quetch. And I guess
I'll need to abstain on.
we'll have one abstain from, yeah, okay, all right, excellent. Any discussion, council? Hearing none, Kim, if you'll please call the roll.
Mr. Owens?
For September 29th, abstain, but yes for the other 2.
Mr. Anderson?
Aye.
Ms. Pillion?
Aye.
Ms. Quetch?
Aye.
And Mayor Webb?
Aye. Cam, was that clean enough?
Yes, sir.
All right. Keep me on track, man. Keep me on track. All right. We don't have any proclamations tonight, but that does bring us to the public hearings. We've got a couple on tap for tonight. I would like to remind the crowd that have signed up for public hearing comments that they do have 5 minutes per person. The first public hearing that we have is pursuant to Virginia Code Section 15.2-980 and the Code of Virginia for the Town of Abingdon Amendment to Chapter 30, Environment, Article 2, Noise, Sections 3030 through 3036. Do we want to go ahead and discuss that now, Cam?
Sure.
Or are we just going to do the public hearing and move on?
However you want to do it. I would have some discussion.
Okay.
first, probably.
Mayanna, is this the Mayanna Rice show?
No, I
No.
think this is Chief Holbrook.
Okay, Chief. I was going to throw Mayanna under the bus. I'm so sorry. Chief Holbrook, come on down. Give us a little background.
Sure, thank you, Mayor and members of the council. What brings me before you all tonight on this proposed amendment to the noise ordinance has been several complaints throughout the community, specifically dealing with barking dogs during the daytime. Our current ordinance only addresses barking dogs between 11 p.m. and 7 a.m. But several residents has voiced concern that barking dogs during the daytime while they're at home has become quite an issue. This issue has expanded and continued on for quite some time. For example, one person here tonight called us years ago and said, my neighbor has barking dogs. What can you do during the daytime? And our response is, well, the code doesn't allow us to do much. And that's kind of been ongoing. And it is a quality of life issue for these residents that are outside listening. So what we have is an amended ordinance that would address this and a few other things in the noise. And I'll go through that now, or?
Yeah, go ahead and give us the details now. and we'll-
Sure. So before you is a few things, specifically section 30-32 of the Code of Ordinances for specific prohibitions of noise. And this is 24 hours a day. And in that would be a new section K. And that new section K is specifically addresses any owner or person in control of any animal that allows or otherwise permits any such animal to bark, howl, meow, squawk, etc. And this is the section where we want to get into to try to help those that are complaining about the quality of life issues with the barking dogs. And section 1 addresses the time between 10 p.m. and 7 a.m. And that is anything that's plainly audible in any other person's residential dwelling with doors and windows closed, and the source of sound generation shall be discernible regardless of whether such doors or windows are closed. And then we have the 7 a.m. to 10 p.m., and this really fills the gap that we had in our current Code of Ordinances. And this is animal is plainly audible and discernible across real property boundaries or through partitions common to residential dwellings, and such sound can be heard for more than 5 consecutive or non-consecutive minutes in any 10-minute period of time. Animal sounds that can be heard for less than 5 consecutive minutes or non-consecutive minutes in any 10-minute period shall not be subject to this chapter. So basically, if that animal, and I know we're picking on dogs a little bit, but they're the animals of concern right now. If that dog barks for 5 minutes within a 10-minute period, then that can be deemed as excessive per this amendment. Below that's the paragraph that it doesn't apply to animals that are injured or if they're being attacked or they're protecting itself, its kennel, offspring, etc. Doesn't apply to a police dog, of course. And of course, it has an exception for dog parks from a particular time set forth by the code. So that would be between dusk and 7 a.m. Sunday through Thursday, or between dusk and 8 on Fridays, etc. So that's the part that would really address their concerns and the concern we have. I even had one complaint come in this morning, very ironically, and I called the person back and said, I'm bringing forth an amendment to the ordinance tonight. So they said that they would be watching on YouTube. But other changes on the ordinance was a minor change for commercial establishments. This was a exception to the noise ordinance for commercial establishments located in areas zoned for mixed use as defined between the hours of 7 a.m. and 11. This changes it from 7 to midnight. I recommended that we bring it back to 11 to be consistent with the rest of the ordinance that's 11 to 7. A new section on 30-34, the issuance of permits. This is for operation or temporary use permits for special events, exhibitions, festivals, concerts, parades, etc. So that allows the town to issue a permit. It has to set forth what it's for, the reasons, and all the particulars on why that permit shall be issued. Moving forward, there was a few housekeeping things that we took care of so that we're moving sections of the animal ordinance or the animal violation, the noise ordinance back over to the 24-hour period. And then the big one is 30-35, and that's the enforcement and penalties. And that's section B. And basically, it's the enforcement of the standards established in the section. And it allows the officer to use judgment and determine if a particular noise is sufficiently loud or otherwise so offensive that it would be unreasonably disturb a person of ordinary sensibilities in the vicinity. This is kind of, you never know what kind of situation is going to arise, and gives us a little bit of leeway on whether or not to make the decision on what to do going forth. And it has several factors that we as police officers would consider on enforcement of this. The volume of the noise, the intensity of the noise, whether the nature of the noise is usual or unusual, the origin of the noise is natural or unnatural, the type and intensity of the background noise, if any, proximity of the noise to residential sleeping facilities, the nature of zoning of the area in which the noise is heard, the time of day, of course, is a consideration, the duration, whether noises are current, intermittent, or constant. So that gives us a little bit of a guide to go with when we, get calls to certain complaints. So that's basically a condensed version of what we're looking to do with the changes in these amendments on the noise ordinance. And of course, the noise ordinance covers a lot more than that. That's just a condensed on what the changes are.
Sure. So council, I think this is probably a good time to ask any questions, if you have questions.
I'm assuming that the dog barking would start with a complaint and then an officer would show up. I'm assuming that the initial would start off with a complaint from a resident about the dog barking, and then an officer would show up and then time the 5-minute duration and go from there. Is there thought on, like for me, when I take my vehicle to the garage, it doesn't make the noise that it does at home. Is the officer going to show up and the dog stops barking, leaves, and you all get multiple calls about the dog's barking again? What's your approach on that?
So we could do a couple of different things. We've in the past had recordings where the citizen would record. The citizen could also go and get a summons from the magistrate for the violation themselves, based on what they've seen and what they've observed. That's they could provide us with a recording, and we could go on behalf based on that. It would be like any other case where you would gather all the evidence together, and then you could go forth.
It would be like a car wreck at Cummings in Maine.
Sure.
The officer didn't see it. He has to rely on the witnesses to say what it was that happened.
And several of the folks that have complained do have the barking recorded. One of the previous managers had a voicemail that was nothing but barking dogs that was recorded
Interesting.
from a resident.
It's
Yes.
an interesting way to do it, yeah.
So you could take that and go forth.
What else, council? I'm sure we got questions, inquisitive eyes.
No questions, but I live in a neighborhood where there is barking dogs, and I think what you've got together here is a start. It's a promise, it's a start, so I'm happy with what you have in front of us now.
Kind of, and I think everything that's been said so far makes perfect sense. And the way I look at this type of situation is we're just giving you all a tool to be able to actually take action if action is needed. And in my experiences with our police force, you guys do a great job. We're very blessed to have a police force that uses good judgment and treats people fairly. So I have no reservations about giving them a tool to be able to assess and take action if necessary. That's sort of how I look at it. Now, the other side of it is, do you feel like you have enough manpower to be able to address these? Is this something you're going to be getting 100 calls a day? Or are we talking like a couple of calls a week? I'm just curious, like how you...
It's hard to say. It's hard to say how many calls would come in on this, because right now what we were looking at, and I talked to Mr. Cochran about this before, is you can look at our call sheets. We pull the numbers of noise complaints and barking dogs doesn't really paint a good picture, because for years, we've been telling people there's nothing we can do during the day.
Sure.
So those folks no longer call and
Sure.
say, you know,
Sure.
what you can do. I think that once word gets out, you know, you want to do, if you all decide to go with us, there would be an educational period where we would go and we would say, hey, look, you can't do this anymore. Now we have an ordinance that prohibits it. And try to work with residents to, you know, correct it. Because what we're looking for is compliance. What you're looking for is dogs not barking all day. And I
That
think-
makes perfect sense.
I think by talking
Yeah.
to those that are violating this first and trying
Sure.
to educate them on what the new law would be,
Yeah.
would be our first step.
Makes sense.
What are some other noise complaints that you receive?
Other noise complaints a lot is loud music,
Okay.
for the most part.
Is it usually associated with an event, or are we just talking about somebody playing loud music outside their backyard? Or?
It varies. A lot of times it's loud music, you know, they have the stereo turned up, the TV turned up. You have apartment complexes.
That's
where
what I
you
was
can
gonna say,
hear
more or less
through
apartments
the
than more
partition,
residents.
apartment from one to the next.
Sure.
A large party going on at one residence and then other residents trying to sleep.
Yeah.
Those are kind of our typical things.
What other questions, council, while we got him up on the hot seat, if you will?
He's coming back.
All right. We'll let you go sit down so we can have public hearing, and then we'll let you come back. How about that?
Sounds
huh?
good.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chief. All right. So again, this is a public hearing, and we do have a couple of people signed up tonight. At this time, I'm going to open the public hearing, and I'll remind you that you have 5 minutes when you come up before the council. First up, we have Mr. Rob Jones. And if you don't mind to give us your address, just so everybody knows where you're from.
Thank you very much, council members, for allowing me to speak tonight. My name is Robert Jones. I'm the resident of 131 Smartview Lane. I'm also the homeowners association president for the Smartview Homeowners Association. And I also want to thank the chief for his efforts to bring this to the town's forefront and to your attention. It is an issue that we've been struggling with for numerous years now. I've lived in town for a few years. And like many Americans, recently, my company during COVID said, we now want you to work from home. And when COVID was not so much of an issue, they said, we'd still like you to work from home. So we're saving money on office space, and so they have quite a number of employees working from home like many Americans now. And I can tell you that you can imagine trying to conduct the town's business and constantly listening to dogs barking just outside your window. Whether the window's open or closed, of course, it's still very audible and very, quite honestly, just insufferable. I'm on Zoom calls, 3, 4, 5 hours a day sometimes with people scattered across the country. I'm a program manager for the U.S. government, and so I have engineers and other scientists on the call, and it's very hard to conduct the nation's business on this program that I'm working on, much less my own quality of life, as the chief stated. So we know this has been a reoccurring issue in many parts of town. I know that's not part of this current ordinance, but quite honestly, it's frustrating to see dogs stuck in a little pen in a cage that are out there all day long in all kinds of weather. It's not their fault. They're just spastic. They can't get out. They don't have any quality of life themselves. So anything that moves, any bird, any truck, any vehicle, school bus, whatever, they're barking. And we really think this is an issue. It's a quality of life issue for the residents. My immediate neighbor works from home. She also has said that she would contact the town. One of my other neighbors here, who I know has contacted the chief, numerous times. And so we really appreciate you taking the time to take this into consideration. We hope you pass this ordinance, and we hope it improves the quality of life for all of the residents. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Next up, we have Mr. John, and I think I'm saying this right, Brenner?
Yeah.
Okay, excellent. Mr. John Brenner, come on down.
Thank you for having me. I'm John Brenner. I live at 246 B Street. My backyard is on Madison Street. I've called many times to the police at night. We have an Airbnb in our house, and we have guests who have complained tremendous time. I had one guest who called the police without telling us 3 times over the night. But what's amazing, and they usually, that does work. I mean, it does stop it then, 3 o'clock in the morning, you're awake. But what's really interesting, I spend a lot of time outside. And in our neighborhood, there's dogs that they don't just bark, they howl. And they howl so loud, 2 blocks away is the train. They don't drown out their howling. And they howl pretty much all day long. And I would hope we could do something about that. And I appreciate what I've heard tonight, because I think that hopefully we could do something with these people that are just having dogs locked up screaming all day. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. John actually lives in my neighborhood, so
Got
we
good neighbors, right?
frequent.
That's it.
John is a very good neighbor,
Good
but
neighbors.
I feel John's pain, so I totally understand, Mr. John, what you're talking about.
That's it. So again, this is a public hearing. If anybody else would like to come up and speak, this is the time to do so. All right, then I'll close the public hearing, and we'll re-approach this in just a few minutes. The second public hearing we have tonight is pursuant to Virginia Code Section 15.2-1425 and 46.2-1220 and the Code of Virginia for the Town of Abingdon, amendment to Chapter 70, Traffic and Vehicles, Article 5, Stopping, Standing, and Parking. Sounds like a movie. Division 1, generally. And I assume Chief is right back up on the hot seat. Give us a little background.
All right, back again. So this was a little less lengthy in a code section. So basically, to summarize this is just creating section 70-142 in our traffic and vehicles article, section 70-142.1, parking and fire lanes. And this is a code section that would give us the authority to issue parking tickets and or tow a vehicle should we need to if they're parked in a fire lane. So let me go through the particulars of this one. So basically, the code just reads, it shall be unlawful for any person to park a vehicle in a fire lane designated and marked. The obvious markings, the painting on the roadways, et cetera. But there are a few exceptions. So fire lanes within commercial or school properties, keyword being commercial or school properties, for the use for temporary stopping to pick up or discharge passengers or supplies, provided that a vehicle shall be so stopped parallel and immediately adjacent to the curb, and a licensed operator shall occupy and be in control of the vehicle while it's so stopped. So this is not if you're dropping somebody off at the door or you're pulling up for somebody to put groceries in the trunk of your car or any other product for that case. So as long as the driver's sitting there in the vehicle, so if an emergency happens, we can walk up and say, move your car, and they're right there to move the vehicle. The number 2 exemption is fire lanes adjacent to commercial or business establishments which have no alternate loading zone or rear entrance may be used for temporary parking by vehicles engaged solely in loading or unloading supplies or merchandise to or from the establishment, provided the licensed operator of such vehicles engaged solely in the loading or unloading operation. And 3, fire lanes within residential and industrial areas may be used for momentary stopping to pick up or discharge passengers or supplies, provided that a vehicle shall be stopped parallel, et cetera, and a licensed operator shall be in control. So basically, it also says that you can't park perpendicular in the fire lane, because that would obviously block up usually the whole lane in front of the location. No provision of this shall apply to fire, rescue, or police vehicles while they were operating in an official capacity. So if we have to go in an official capacity, not really to get lunch, but responding to a call for service, et cetera, then that gives us an exemption. The code says that gives us the authority, police the authority, or fire the authority to have a vehicle towed at the owner's expense should the need arise, should emergency arise, and we need to have that authority and power to do so. So that's basically it. It's a ordinance that we haven't had before, to my knowledge, in the town of Abingdon, and it's one that would give us authority if somebody is in the fire lane, that, you know, they just leave their vehicle there and then they just disappear into whatever business they're going into. It gives us the authority to, you know, take corrective action. So me as police chief walking out of business and in uniform and walking past, people don't look, are you going to do something? And I say, there's nothing that we can do. And it's also a public safety, and I can invite Chief Estes with the fire department to come in and talk a little bit about how this does create a public safety issue, especially in his world and his trucks and getting people in and out of businesses should a fire and emergency occur.
Good evening. There's two main issues with fire lanes. One, having an established fire lane allows us to have an egress for people that are in businesses to be able to get out if there is an emergency. So when people park against the curb and they have to come out quickly, and there's vehicles parked everywhere, you can't get out. If they need to leave the parking lot and all these vehicles are parked there, they can't get out. But for me, most importantly, it's being able to have access to get to that building, to get to the front door, to get to the fire hydrants, to get to the fire department connections in order so I can do my job and my employees can do their job. It's only a safety issue. And as Chief Holbrook talked a little bit earlier on the barking dogs, it's going to take time to educate our public. And it's that once we educate them, then I think we won't have to enforce it because I think they'll comply. And I think that this is something that's been needed for a long time in the town, and we appreciate you considering it.
Thank you.
Council, what questions we got for him while we're up here?
This is pretty much a standard nationwide, though, isn't it? I mean, we're not I guess we're an exception to the rule that we don't have this. Is that correct?
From my knowledge, yeah.
So I couldn't imagine anybody would be opposed to this for public safety. I mean, I'd like to hear the argument against it, if they are.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, and again, like I said earlier, it's giving you all a tool. Clearly, this one's public safety related as opposed to quality of life. This is vital. Council, any other questions we can think of? I mean, that's pretty well self-explanatory.
Yep.
And, you know, I appreciate you, Chief, talking about the educational component because, again, I put a lot of confidence in both departments, and I know that you're not just going to go out and start writing tickets without educating people and getting them up to speed once this stuff sort of comes into effect. And that's equally as important in my book. So I appreciate the efforts that you're going to put there.
Yes, absolutely. It would be an educational. Because again, the goal is compliance. The goal is to open up those fire lanes so that should the need arise, people can leave, emergency vehicles can get in, et cetera.
Council?
I think y'all did a very good job explaining it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
That's
Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Again, this is a public hearing, so if anybody would like to come up, I will open the public hearing right now. We don't have anybody signed up, but there is an opportunity if someone would like to speak. If nobody wants to speak, I'll close that public hearing, and again, we'll address this in just a few minutes. At this point in time, we do have a resolution petitioning the Department of Transportation for maintenance payments for certain streets in the Urban Maintenance Inventory System. I say that 3 times fast. Mike Surratt, come on down. Welcome.
Mayor, council members, each year we are allowed to submit to the VDOT in the state to add to our urban maintenance inventory of roads and streets. The resolution that's in your packet requires you to take action, so we can submit that to the state to add a number of streets. There are several streets, new streets we're going to add, and there's some that we're going to ask for based on their criteria to fit into the urban maintenance inventory for funding.
Okay. Excellent.
And there's several streets, you've seen the list in your packet. Some of them meet the right of way, don't meet the pavement, but they meet the criteria that were put forth by the state.
So this is additional?
Yes, some of them are additional, some of them are new.
Okay. New altogether?
They would just
Okay.
add on to our existing inventory of streets.
Okay. Okay. Council, what questions you got for me? Mike, would you like for me to read Mike, or Mike? Would anybody like, sorry, there's too many mics in one room. Would y'all like me to read this resolution? I mean, Cam, is that appropriate, or it's pretty thick with engineer nomenclature and so on and so forth. I'm not sure the general public's going to be too interested. But long story short, this just allows us to capture more funding.
Yes,
correct?
this is the governing body saying, yes, we want you to move forward with submitting this to the state and to Transportation Department for consideration.
Okay. Council?
Do we do this annually, or is this something?
Annually, VDOT sends us an inventory list, and annually, we're allowed to, if we add a street that year, we can submit it for inclusion into the inventory.
How successful are we at getting some of these extra streets funded?
This is my first one.
Okay.
I mean, realistically, in the
Sorry,
past,
Mike.
we haven't really submitted them,
Yeah.
but we are submitting the ones, especially since we got the new Cook Street extension, Robertson Road, and those ones. And then me and my staff went through the inventory and looked at what was in the VDOT inventory compared to the streets we have based on the right-of-way widths to make sure. And now we're at a point where we need to submit these roads, and either VDOT will tell us no, or they will say, yes, this one goes in the inventory. But we feel like the list that we provided is within the criteria and should be accepted.
Okay. Does anybody have questions about how that works? I know it's kind of, for the general public, if they don't understand exactly what we're talking about. So every year we get money from VDOT to pave
Yes.
roads and maintain roads.
Yes.
And this is our attempt to add additional funding perhaps to the pot.
Yes.
To capture new roads, keep
Yes.
our roads cleaner and
Yes, for
freshly
maintenance.
paved more readily. Does that sound?
Yes, sir, that's
Pretty
that's
much it?
exactly.
Okay.
They will provide us funding for
Yeah.
maintenance for the roadway sections in town.
Excellent. With that being said, council, I would entertain a motion to adopt that resolution.
I'll make that motion.
And I'll
Motion by Vice Mayor
second that
Ford.
motion.
Second by Mr. Anderson. Any discussion, council? Hearing none, Kim, if you'll please call the roll.
Mr. Owens?
Aye.
Mr. Anderson?
Aye.
Ms. Pillion?
Aye.
Ms. Quetch?
Aye.
And Mayor Webb.
Aye. Thank you, Mike. Appreciate that.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you.
All right, so we're right back around to those ordinances we were talking about. We have, first up, first reading of ordinances. Cam, I'll ask you ahead of time. With one of these being public safety related, we can dispel with the second reading. Is that accurate?
Sure.
And then, of course, with the other one, the noise, it sounds like the general public would like for us to act on that quickly. We can
Yes.
dispel with that second reading if you all feel like that's the appropriate action. Cam's shaking his head, so it sounds like we can if that's your all's pleasure. So first up, we've got the consideration of amendment of Chapter 30, Environmental Article 2, Noise, Sections 3030 through 3036. Chief Holbrook did a fantastic job of explaining that in detail. So unless we have questions for him, I would entertain a motion to adopt that ordinance and dispel with the second reading if you all so choose.
Yes.
Yes to both?
Yes.
All
Yes to
right.
both.
Motion by Mr. Anderson to adopt that ordinance and dispel with the second reading. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Second by Ms. Pillion. Any discussion, council? Hearing none, Kim, if you'll please call the roll.
Mr. Owens?
Aye.
Mr. Anderson?
Aye.
Ms. Pillion?
Aye.
Ms. Quetch?
Aye.
And Mayor Webb.
Aye. And I noticed Mr. Anderson said aye very quickly, so he wants this done.
Yes.
Nothing worse than a dog barking in your
That's it.
backyard, right? Yeah, that's it. And then second up, we've got consideration of amendment of Chapter 70, Traffic and Vehicles, Article 5, Stopping, Standing, and Parking, Division 1 generally. Chief Holbrook, again, did a great job, and Chief Estes explaining that and making the case why that is a public safety issue. Council, I think it's the same game here. We can adopt that ordinance and dispel with the second reading if you all so choose. At this time, I would entertain a motion to do so.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
All right, motion by Mr. Owens, second by Mr. Anderson. Any discussion, council? I'll say one thing, Chief and Chief, I applaud you for your dedication to our safety. I really do, and thank you for what you do. Having said that, Kim, if you'll please call the roll.
Mr. Owens?
Aye.
Mr. Anderson?
Aye.
Ms. Pillion?
Aye.
Ms. Quetch?
Aye.
And Mayor Webb.
Aye. All right. We don't have any second readings of ordinances tonight. We don't have any new bids to consider. Any new business that I'm aware of, or old business that I'm aware
We've
of?
got new business.
Oh, we do?
Yeah.
What did I miss?
We added something to the.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm missing the back page. There we go. We got it. We got it. Yeah. I apologize. I was going too fast. Under section N on the agenda, new business, we have consideration and acceptance of permanent easement and rights of way of 49,541.4 square feet from Gregory and Ruth Case, tax map number 127A, 8A, for site improvement bridge construction relating to Virginia Creeper Trail Trestle 4 rehabilitation project. Mr. Cochran.
Yeah, so this is part of the rehab project that we have going on, and speaking with Cam briefly before the meeting, we're still working out a couple final details in order to make that happen. So the key is that will allow us to have a permanent bridge structure down there, so in case they need to get down there in order to do stuff.
They had a smaller bridge on their property that we had been going across and had to fix it and build it back and that sort of thing. So they've agreed that it would be better for us to have an access from Watauga Road, close to the Creeper Trail off Watauga Road, that way under that big trestle. That's where this trestle is.
Yeah, so everybody, just so the general public realizes, the huge trestle that's really tall right at Watauga Road there, that's the one we're talking about. Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
And they've agreed to the area and that sort of thing, but there are a few little details for Mr. Worley's been working on this to work out. So what I would ask for is a motion that you approve the easement and allow Mr. Cochran and myself to negotiate the details and prepare the paperwork.
Okay. So this is basically just for maintenance and repairs and so on and so forth that we do to the trestle there. Right. Okay. All right. Council, any questions for Mr. Cochran or Cam? I mean, that seems pretty self-explanatory to me. So I would entertain a motion to grant that easement a right-of-way so that we can negotiate the details, Cam? Is that kind of the
Yes,
way
sir.
it works? Okay. Council?
I'll approve that motion.
Motion by Mr. Anderson to do so. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Second by Ms. Pillion. Any discussion, council, or anything that wasn't clear there? Cam, do I need to craft that a certain way?
No, I mean, we're obtaining the easement, we're not giving an easement away.
Oh, I apologize.
Okay.
Yeah, obtaining the easement right away. Yeah, I apologize. And that's exactly what y'all meant in the motion in the second, right? All right, good.
Of course.
Of course. Well, if there's any discussion, we can have it now. Otherwise, Kim, if you'll please call the roll.
Mr. Owens?
Aye.
Mr. Anderson?
Aye.
Ms. Pillion?
Aye.
Ms. Quetch?
Aye.
And Mayor Webb.
Aye. Thank you all for keeping me between the lines on that one. So, no old business that I'm aware of. We do have some miscellaneous business and communications from the town manager. First up, we have a presentation we've all been waiting for by the Tourism Advisory Committee and Tanya Triplett. Come on down.
Good evening.
Good evening,
You guys
Tanya.
doing well.
Yes, ma'am.
We've had a lot of things going on, so just going to bring you all up to speed on how Chad and I have been spending our time over the last few months and some exciting things that we have going on. So we've been hosting travel riders, and if you don't know about travel riders, they're folks that you welcome to your community. You show them all your assets, and then you hope that they write articles about you. So last month we had a mention in Southern Living, mentioned the Martha Washington Inn as being a winter destination, and that piece saw 11.4 million impressions, which means it's the times that it was displayed on the screen, not necessarily the clicks that it was hit, but that's how many times it was displayed. The value of that was over $105,000 for that one article. We had a lady come in June. Her name was Jackie Runnis, and she writes for the 10 Best, USA Today 10 Best. And she did an article on the Crooked Road, and she included Bristol, Abingdon, Galax, Marion, Wytheville. I had a gentleman call me the other day who said his sister in California had received that article in her local paper. So I don't have the value on what that is yet, but riders are an extremely valuable component. We had one who came in June, and she came back again in October, and she has a little blog called The Trippy Life. She's from Raleigh, North Carolina, which is one of our largest target markets. and she has done a wonderful, wonderful job. So we had some folks partner with us on that. Chelsea Carneal with Sonder Home actually provided some lodging for her while she was here. And Chelsea got quite a nice little blurb on Instagram of the property while she was in it. So exciting things, just some things that she did while she was here. We haven't even seen what she's going to add to her blog yet. So those are invaluable relationships and really gets us some marketing that is helpful. Groups are beginning to come back. We've had some groups in July and August, and we have 2 large groups coming this month, 2 motor coach groups who will be staying overnight and having meals here. And then we have a conference that Tim Estes was extremely helpful in getting here. It's the Virginia Emergency Management folks, and they'll be here next week, going to stay for 2 days. And I think they're going to be going over to the brewery one night and having some tacos from the taco truck. So that's going to be a good group to have. I went the end of September to Raleigh. I'm going to play trivia.
You're going to play trivia, right?
I haven't got their questions. I've got to get that. I went to Raleigh for the International Bluegrass Music Awards and spent 5 days. So the Virginia Tourism Corporation is the state level tourism office, and they purchased 14 booths at this festival. And in the middle of those 14 booths, they put a stage. And they had a sandwich board so folks could come by and sign up to play music on that stage. So we were invited to go because we're along the Crooked Road. Of course, the Crooked Road headquarters are here in Abingdon. But we were, on one side of me was Marion promoting Wayne Henderson School of Music, or School of Art. On the other side of me was Bristol and Birthplace of Country Music, Galax, Floyd County, Patrick County, Montgomery County, Heart of Appalachia, the Friends of Southwest Virginia, and the Crooked Road. So it was pretty amazing. But one of the most amazing things about that is we have had 8 couples who have either told my staff at the front desk or signed our register saying that I am here because I met Tanya at IBMA. So I don't know when a show that I have been to previously that I've ever had that happen, but it's been pretty amazing. So that show is well worth our time, and I have expressed my gratitude to Virginia Tourism Corporation, so hopefully they'll continue to do that. With that, we have been able to expand our email list. We've added 110 email addresses to our list, and we are also working already with 3 groups who will be coming in 2023, 2 motor coach groups, and then we're working with Appalachian long distance hikers who have about 300 in their group, and they're usually here for a weekend in November. So exciting times. If you weren't out last Saturday for the trick-or-treat, you were probably the only person that wasn't out. We had about 3,000 folks here on Main Street trick-or-treating, and it was amazing. Not only was our trick-or-treat going on, but Tumbling Creek Cider had live music, the brewery had live music, JJ's had live music, and the tavern had a costume contest. So it was all things Halloween in Abingdon last week, and it was pretty exciting.
It was very nice. The Halloween for the kids through the town of Main Street was very nice. The turnout was very nice. Everybody in my community and everyone I've spoken to, really kudos to you and whoever had the opportunity to work with that. But that was very big to me and very big to people in my community. Great job on that.
Thank you very much. We'll give Chad some kudos here in just a minute because Chad was the marketing guy, got all those social media ads out for us to get the word out about that. But it really was a great event. We have been working with the county. So the county had $130,000 ARPA funding, and we met with them 3 weeks ago, and we were able to acquire $70,000 of that ARPA funding for the town of Abingdon. So I'm happy to report that with Virginia Outdoors Foundation, a private donation, and this money, we now have enough money to complete the asphalt track for the bike park.
Nice.
We do not have the money for the skills track, which is the dirt track around it with all of the jumps and humps and walls and all those kind of things. But we do have $220,000 to move forward with on the asphalt track. So I guess we'll be working on that. A few events that we have planned coming up. November the 20th, we're having a townwide merchant open house. We've had 10 businesses already commit to that. So merchants all over town will be open from 1 to 5 on a Sunday afternoon, allowing folks to maybe come out and do some Christmas shopping early. We are hosting a tree lighting on the lawn of the Fields Pen. So Berry Home Center come on board with us, and they purchased 10 live Christmas trees. So those Christmas trees are going to be placed on the lawn, and then we have room inside for 7. And we open that up to businesses and organizations to decorate if they'd like. And we have 1 outside tree left and maybe 1 inside tree left. So we have organizations who have committed to decorating those trees. They have to be decorated by the 19th. And then on the 20th, the merchant open house will end at 5 o'clock. And at 5:15, we'll do a Christmas tree lighting. And we will light up all of those trees. Each tree will have a box, and folks can bring children's books, toothbrushes, toothpaste, or pet food. And at the end of December, we will tally those up, and all of the books and the toothbrushes and toothpaste will be donated to United Way. And then the pet food will be split between the Animal Defense League and Happy Tails Pet Rescue. So we thought that would be a really fun way to really kind of get people involved and then be able to support some organizations in our community as well. You have a magazine by your spot there that you can kind of flip through a little bit, but we were voted the Blue Ridge Outdoor Top Adventure Small Town. Damascus was the top tiny town, and Bristol was the medium town. So it was a Southwest Virginia sweep for that magazine, and you can see that we placed a full-page ad for the town of Abingdon in that issue, and then we co-opt, if you look on, I'm not sure what page it's on, but the one that's listed Damascus, Abingdon, and Bristol, and that was a co-op between the 3 towns. So it was very nice to kind of see that happen. The Christmas parade is December the 3rd at 6 o'clock. So we have committed some monies to do awards for some prizes for the Christmas parade this year. So we hope that that will really bump things up to the next level, and hope people will go above and beyond really decorating their floats and making it special. We've also kicked off a merchant, or not really a merchant, but just a small business decorating, not necessarily a window, because there's folks who have properties that they could decorate that don't necessarily have a window, so just small business property decorating. And we're going to split up $500 between those winners. So it'll be a $250 award for the first place, $150 for second place, and $100 for third place. So, and I'm going to let Chad come up and talk a little bit about some numbers and social media and the back of our website, so you can kind of get a grip on what these advertisements mean to us and how it drives people to our website.
Thank you, Tanya, for all your hard work.
Does everybody know Chad?
Thank you.
Yeah.
I think we've all had a chance to meet at some point.
That's it. Welcome.
Don't tell anybody you know me. It might not be a good reputation for you. I promise to be brief and not too boring on these different pieces here. But so one of the things I've been trying to concentrate on since I came to Abingdon was to really make sure we have a consistent and concise social media. In the marketing and tourism world, social media is very competitive, and that's one of the areas where we can really reach out to audiences. And so following those trends, I try to create more videos. One of the things I've seen is we have had a massive increase in video views on our social media, about 40,000 just over the past few months. So, and that's including new platforms such as TikTok. So I'm trying to bring this into the world of a little bit younger generations, because one of the things we're noticing is website traffic to our visitabingdonvirginia.com is that 35 to 44-year-olds are becoming some of the highest numbers of people showing interest in Abingdon, whereas before that was not heard of. So that's really neat to try to figure out ways that we can connect with them. Another task I've been trying to do is to update our digital asset management system. Some of the photos in there are a little bit dated. Some of the businesses have since moved on to do other ventures. So I think I've collected about 500 to 600 quality photos we can use for our marketing purposes. This is for paid advertising or what have you. They belong to the town. We don't have to worry about usage rights, so that's a phenomenal thing there. Two of the biggest projects we've worked on over the past 3 months was we redesigned the visitor guide from start to finish. We noticed that the previous visitor guide, I think, was 2019 or so, 2017. So fairly dated. It was time to redo that, and we took into consideration the strategic plan that was created for marketing to incorporate more of the branding, the colors, the style, and try to get us more uniform and unique. So we updated our photos, the text that was in there, and we're more future protected. So there's QR codes in there now that we can learn different things. What are people more interested in, whether it's our food and dining or our lodging, our shopping, and we're actually noticing history is taking a pretty big lead on that right now, so that's pretty fascinating. And with that design project, we also redesigned our shopping and dining map. We noticed there's a lot of businesses that have moved or changed just since the last one of those was printed. It was a very grueling process, but the new map's easier to navigate, so it's going to make it a lot better for our visitors and overall for our businesses. And then let's see what we got here. So I promise it's not that boring of stuff that I actually do. It's very exciting. One of the things that I enjoy the most is the fact that I do get to work very closely with all of our local businesses. So one of the things I've been doing is when I go to different businesses, I ask them what they need, what they would like to see from us, and I've noticed there's been a great response from that, which is how some of these projects have came about. So that's been a huge help, just hearing from the local community. And I guess just to kind of wrap up a little bit of this, I'll just kind of give some stats of who we're most popular with. So currently, for the past, I would say about 90 days, our top 3 markets are Atlanta, Ashburn, and Nashville. So it's really cool to see where these different people are coming from. I already mentioned 35 to 44 is our new age range. And it just so happens our top categories for Abingdon, and no shock to me, is food and dining and arts and entertainment. So that's really cool to see that we are becoming this food mecca. We already have been, realistically. The awards show that. But the top 3 reasons people are wanting to visit Abingdon for the past 3 months was they just want to visit us. They heard about us through word of mouth from somebody else or in an advertisement we've done or something to that extent. They want to come to the Virginia Creeper Trail, or they have just been passing through and traveling to other destinations. So what we've been trying to take advantage of at the Visitor Center is when we find out that's why people are here, is to express how many great things there are here in hopes that they'll come back. So I guess that's what we've got.
I want to thank you all, and I want to thank Chad for all of his help. He has been a real asset to add to this team, and I don't know that he has a great interest in a lot of things that I don't. So it's been the perfect partnership. So Chad, thank you for all your hard work. Last year we had an idea about live streaming the Christmas parade. So we talked about shut-ins, we talked about rest homes, we talked about folks in the hospital. And we thought about it very late in the season when we're not able to make it happen. So when Chad came on board in March, I was like, Chad, we had this idea. We couldn't make it work. So Chad this evening has spent the evening with the folks at Barter and our IT folks. And Barter is building a platform for them to sit on at the fountain this year. So they will actually be live streaming the parade. So it'll be kind of like Savannah and Hoda, except it's going to be Chad and Terrence. And, if you guys want to drop by and do an interview, or if you have anybody that wants to say anything and drop by for an interview, I'd love for you to do that.
Nice.
That is so
Hey,
fantastic.
I think both of y'all do a wonderful job promoting the town of Abingdon. I'm in the restaurant business in the town of Abingdon. I've known Tanya for years. I've just met you. Tanya, you do a wonderful job. I think you're doing a great job as well. So both of y'all, please keep up the good work.
Thank you very
All right.
much.
All right.
You too. Thank you.
Good job, guys. So great.
All right, that brings us to another presentation we're very excited about. This is a great event from the Abingdon Fiddlers Convention. Miss Jennifer Blankenship, thank you for coming tonight.
Well, for having me. I have some things here. I'm a little late, I think 5 months late showing up, but we had the fair we had to work with. Jennifer Blankenship with Washington County Fairgrounds. board of directors. I think I know all of you all, except I'm not sure I've met you. The town manager, welcome to Abingdon. I want to give, first of all, an update about the Abingdon Fiddlers Convention. Did any of you all get to go? No.
I didn't get to go, I was out of town, but I have to say though, everything I've heard is that it was great, and I want to know how we can make it even better for next year.
That's why we're here. And also, I actually gave you all this sponsorship packet. I gave it to Tanya to present, but I think she wanted to wait till I came. So the tickets expired. I guess she probably handed them out to you all. But this is just a little thank you for your support. You can hang it up in Town Hall, wherever you want
Love
to.
it.
We had those made for all of our sponsors.
Thank you so much.
Anyone that supported the event.
Wonderful. Check it out.
And those were locally made at Bristol Flooring Company. Just to give you a little bit of background for those of you all that don't know about the Fiddlers Convention and how it came about. It all started in 2021. The Fairground Board of Directors, we didn't know if we were going to have a fair. Have all of you all been to the county fair?
Yes,
That
of
is
course.
okay. So we didn't know if we were going to have a county fair because of COVID. We were late getting it started. We found out that with some of the new rules within the town of Abingdon, we weren't going to be able to put on our parade, which we were kind of sad about. And then we didn't have the funding. So I thought, okay, well, that's all right. We can still work with the town. So I called Tanya up one day and I said, how can we partner? Like, we need some help here. We're late getting our advertisements out. Just because with COVID, everything was uncertain. Lack of funding. And so she said, well, we can't help you financially right now, but I can help you with these Facebook ads. And so she got on it and she started helping us with the Facebook ads for that particular fair. And I told her, I said, if we as a fairgrounds do not start having more events at the fairgrounds, we really need to put money back into it, make capital improvements. We're 100% volunteer. We do not have a paid staff member. My goal personally is to one day have either a part-time paid or a full-time paid staff in order to have events there at the fairgrounds all year long. And because it's a perfect location, absolutely beautiful, and it could bring a lot into the town of Abingdon and to Washington County. So she immediately, in her bluegrass, love for bluegrass, said, have you ever been to the Galax Fiddlers Convention? And I said, well, yes, my husband plays bluegrass. I've been going for years. She said, what if we had one in Abingdon? And so the wheels started turning. I said, well, let's get through the fair and then we'll plan a Fiddlers Convention, and that's what we did. So we worked with, we hired Kate Dick, who does advertisements locally here. She did our logo. She did which you see the logo on that. And then she also did our flyer. And on March the 27th, I made the first Facebook post. I did not pay to boost it, and in 1 week it had been seen over 80,000 times. And I thought, oh gosh, what are we doing? This is going to be, we've got to get to work. So after going to Fiddlers Conventions all across the region, Galax being the biggest, knowing that Galax brings in 80,000 people in 1 week in their town, the first week of August, having several friends that I work with in my business that are part of the Galax Fiddlers Convention, I just started asking questions, seeing how they do it, how they give back to their community. And so we just said, let's do it and let's pick a date. We picked the third weekend in June at that point in time, which we knew we were competing with the Wayne Henderson Festival, which is up the road. But we just had to pick a date and roll with it. So we started advertising. We went to every convention before ours. We passed out flyers. We put them in. My dad and other people on our committee drove over into the coal fields, into Tennessee, up into Floyd, every gas station, every business. We worked with the Crooked Road. Tanya helped to put ads in her things as well. So the day came, and we also asked people to pre-register if they were going to participate. So through the pre-registration, we were keeping track as to where people were going to be staying. It had where are you coming from, where are you staying, if you're going to camp, if you're going to hotel, whatnot. We had folks that were that were staying in local bed and breakfasts in Abingdon. had folks staying in local hotels, which we were up against the drag race in Bristol that same weekend. So that was a little tricky working with local hotels to provide a reasonable rate, but Tanya was able to work some magic there. We had people staying in local campgrounds at Washington County Park because they do have hookup, and we did not have hookup at the fairgrounds at the time. So from what we tallied and figured, we had over 2,700 people come for 2 days. They came from 11 different states. Many of them had never been to Abingdon. Some of them had, and they came a day before in order to be able to participate in some activities here locally. We rented booth spaces for vendors. We had 23 local businesses that set up booth spaces. We had 6 local concession food trucks set up for the weekend. We partnered with, one thing that I learned from the Galax Fiddlers Convention, the Moose Lodge puts that on, and they partner with different organizations in order to kind of have the volunteers, because we did not have enough volunteers, I will tell you that. But we did partner with Rotary Club, yes. And we told them that we would pay them a percentage, whatever that would be. We didn't know what it would be. We didn't know if we'd have 5 people or if we'd have 5,000. So the Rotary Club did work our gate along with Tanya and her husband. They were great to volunteers. So that was taken care of. The town fire department was there with a booth set up, showing their presence also, but being there, we had local EMS that was there that volunteered their time and services. And one of my goals for the future is that we can grow this to the point, one thing that Galax did, they actually have given the Galax Fire Department quite a bit of money over the years. They've been able to buy new trucks, new equipment, and it's all been from money that has been raised from the Fiddlers Convention. They have built a stage and a covered arena. If you all have ever been there, all that money came in from the Fiddlers Convention. Now granted, the Fiddlers Convention is 80 years old, but one thing that we have learned, and we made sure to do, if you know anything about bluegrass, they have old time and then they have bluegrass. One thing we did is we really combined this and made like kind of an old time and bluegrass section to where everyone was welcome, whereas at some of these Fiddlers Conventions, the Mount Airy one is mainly all old time and then Galax is more bluegrass. And so people really enjoyed the idea of having both of those there. We had our idea of to where campers needed to be located. They showed up and they said, no, we want to go over there. And so that was kind of comical, wasn't it? We were calling the Porta-John people saying, we need you to move the Porta-Johns. So that we kind of, we didn't know what to expect. We set it up and then they told us, no, we want to go over here. So we do know for next year, you know, that type of stuff. When I went to the county and asked for their support back in April of this year, I asked them for a certain amount of money, and then I said one of our biggest expenses as a county fair is we have to rent a stage. And if we had paid 10 years ago, 15 years ago for a stage, look at how much money we could have profited or we could have put back into the fairgrounds or into events. And so they agreed to help us put a stage up there. So since back in March, we've been working on trying to somehow create the perfect stage that we can use for other events throughout the year, not just Fiddlers Convention, not just County Fair. So that is something that we are currently working on. So our goals for this is, 1, capital improvements, the fairgrounds needs it. 2, to be able to have a stage one day that we can, that is ours, that we own, and we can have these events. And then 3, have a full-time or part-time paid staff member that can bring more to Abingdon and Washington County. Let's see here, I'm getting ahead of myself. We had 127 contestants that competed. They competed for $6,000 in prize money. We also had gift cards to local businesses, and we did drawings for each person that was a contestant for the weekend. All of everything we purchased locally. Our hats came from Doss Leather. He made our hats for us. Our t-shirts came from Holland Signs, which the logo was absolutely beautiful. The one thing that makes me so I just want to cry whenever I think about it. We went to Galax, pulled into Galax on Monday, and do you know how many people were walking around Galax with Abingdon Fiddlers Convention t-shirts? And then the band that won the Bluegrass, they're from a young band from Durham, North Carolina. They'd never been to a Fiddlers Convention, and they picked Abingdon Fiddlers Convention. Grandma and Grandpa brought their RV up with 4 or 5 kids that were 18, 19 years old, and these kids came, they won. Do you know they were in Nashville on YouTube with Abingdon Fiddlers Convention apparel on it at some event, and I'm like, this is amazing. So our big plaques that we had for winners, which this was just a sample, but they were wooden. Frank Ramsey made them, but it had the winner of Bluegrass and Old Time. We wanted to be unique. We wanted to be different. All of our sponsors received that sponsor packet, and then the winners for each individual class, and just instead of getting a participation award, we had these in a smaller, little smaller plaque with the logo. And folks just loved them. They said this was really unique. This was Bristol Flooring. We had stickers from Highland Signs. So KVAT did all of our printing along with a couple other local places as well. So the money went back into our local economy. So real quick, what did we learn? There's a huge need for events like this in Abingdon and Washington County. Saturday was Youth Day, but Friday night we had more youth, pretty much, don't you think? Friday night was more youth were there. Little kids, my 3-year-old son competed on Saturday, but you had little kids up to 89-year-old people compete. So it was truly just remarkable. We need more volunteers, so we need probably more civic organizations to step up to the plate and help out, because the county fair board, we're really thin. And then of course we do need financial help. My goal, this past year, we started the event with all of our expenses paid for, and that was a huge blessing. And we already have 2 stage sponsors committed. I know that the county committed to work with us for 3 years. I'm assuming you want to work with us for 3 years. She's in. So, you know, if you all, whenever you talk about budget, if you all would like to try and match what the county does, or if you all could come up with, if there's, maybe you all know of grants out there for something like this, or something like our stage, to be able to get it up there. The potential that this event has to bring people into Abingdon and Washington County is just tremendous. And I will tell you, when we sat down, we were the Washington County Fairgrounds, and we sat down and we said, what are we going to name this? And people on our board said, well, it needs to be the Washington County Fairgrounds Fiddlers Convention. And we talked about it, and you all know my brother, and he's with the county, and I talked to him, I talked to sponsors, supporters, our board, and you know, my brother was one of them too that said people know the name Abingdon. And when we were in Mount Airy at the Mount Airy Fiddlers Convention, and we were passing out these brochures to folks that we had no clue who they were, and they said, where is it? It's Abingdon, Virginia. Oh yeah, that's where the Barter Theater is. Oh yeah, that's where the Creeper Trail is. And my goal is to have those people in. This is a 2-day event. I would love to make it a week-long event. I would love to compete with Galax and make it a week-long event. But I want people here in Abingdon for longer than 2 days, and in Washington County. And I want to give them, if you come next year, when you go into where the registration is, inside the conference room at the fairgrounds, Tanya had Abingdon stuff everywhere, but we went to Damascus. We went to Mendota Trail, we went to Crooked Road, and we asked them for stuff, and that it was like a visitor center, wasn't it? It really was, for the whole county. And it's a win-win for all of us. So I appreciate the support that you gave us. Tanya and her team, they were a huge asset to us, their connections. Financially, she was able to help us too. She was able to help us with social media, and you know, just hope that you all will really consider this for next year, and I hope you'll come to it because it was remarkable. So thank you all.
Now, are
Thank
you,
you.
just to ask while you're here, are you all planning 2 days for next year, or is that still up in the air?
So the
or-
date is set.
Okay.
I should have told you that. Look, it's big letters, save the dates. We didn't even get to that point. So we are moving it up a week. It's gonna be, it was on Father's Day weekend last year. Houston Fest, which is a huge festival in Galax, it's been going on for 10 years, actually made a statement a few weeks ago saying that they would no longer continue that festival, and it is always the second weekend in June. And the folks that have helped us in the bluegrass industry immediately sent us messages and said, y'all need to jump on this date. So what we want to be able to do is be able to advertise it as the second weekend in June moving forward. So everybody knows it's always the second weekend in June. So I think the second year it needs to still be 2 days, Friday and Saturday, until we can continue to grow it. But I would like to eventually make it longer. It was a lot of fun, and I tell you, as much work as we put into it, if you go look on our Facebook page, some of the music was phenomenal throughout the entire experience, but my husband and I, his mother was there and stayed with the kids, and after it was all over, we went through the campground, and that's the best music you'll ever hear. It's at 2 o'clock in the morning, and people are having a good time, but it is good bluegrass. And yeah, it's bluegrass, so I don't think it is noise ordinance, hopefully. It's not. I shouldn't have said that out loud.
Yeah.
Oh my
Yeah.
goodness.
Yeah.
That's in the county.
It's in the county, yeah.
We have a permit. But anyway, it is some of the best music you will ever hear is in the campgrounds.
And I don't know if any of you all have ever been to Galax.
Yeah.
Their property is 10 to 1. They have the capacity to move inside if the weather is bad, if they need to. The camping facilities are really 10 to 1 better. So I think if we can continue to help them grow that event, and they can get a stage that would benefit not only the fair, but the Fiddler's Commission and anything else that they want to do, that it would really be a win-win.
And if any of you all would like to come look at the facility, if you would like to learn more about the stage process, we would love to have you. I mean, we can meet you out there anytime, so just let us know. And are there any questions?
Well, as much energy as you and Tanya have, it's going to have to be a success.
So we had.
I'm exhausted already.
I get so excited. I'm over here. We had Tim White, who is with Song of the Mountain. He was our MC, and we went ahead and hired him again. He helped a lot with advertising. We went to the Song of the Mountain events and advertised before their shows leading up to it. Jack Hinchelwood. I'm leaving. What's the judge's name? The one that he was our our judge that we had, tall guy. He really helped us promote it. I can't remember his name. I'm drawing a blank. But he's really big into the bluegrass community, and he always MCs Galax. And I'll tell you what, we ask for feedback, and we have a list of surveys. And they were all really good. The negative comments were things that were just growing pains. You know, we set our portable stage, we set it the wrong direction. So we had some wind feedback with our sound. That was one of our biggest complaints, but that's something that's easily fixable. We just didn't know. But what I would like to see, and we talked about this, but we didn't get it done quick enough, is leading up to it is to work with local businesses in Abingdon and have like a bluegrass jam on the lawn of the Martha or at a local business or something, and have these people come in and because that's kind of what they do at Galax. I mean, throughout the week they don't play music during the day, you know, the event's that evening, but during the day they're going to these places, they're playing golf, they're going to the brewery, they're going to all these different places. And I've been doing it for years myself. You know, people take a week vacation and they go to Galax. Well, let's let them take a week's vacation and come to Abingdon.
Sounds great.
We talked to Martha, and they welcome that.
That's
so
great.
We'll be able to work out all the details of that. I think we can't go anywhere but up. And I want to thank Jennifer for all her hard work, because she has 2 small children, and she spent a lot of hours putting this Fiddler's Convention together. So thank you.
We had a good group, and my parents, I couldn't have done it without my parents too. So they were the ones traveling on the weekends, passing out brochures and taping them up, and it was fun. But we'd love your all's help or support any way possible.
Thank you so much, Jennifer. Yeah, very exciting.
Yeah.
Very exciting. All right, council. It's going to be hard to go anywhere after those presentations. Very exciting stuff. But now you all have your opportunity for council member report presentations.
Yes.
Oh, do we have, where?
He doesn't have it.
It's the red. It was a last minute.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yes. I apologize. That wasn't on there, though. I'm joking. So we do have one more miscellaneous business communication from town manager. We have a request to adopt a resolution naming Fire Chief Tim Estes as Coordination of Emergency Management. Mr. Cochran.
Yeah, so prior to my arrival here, and the police chief was named in that role. That's typically a role that is handled by the fire chief, and now that we have a fire chief who happened to be the emergency manager in his prior career, the recommendation would be to swap it back to him. So it's a more natural fit with what the firemen do anyway. So
Okay.
that's this recommendation. We do that.
And do we have a copy of that resolution? I know we do, but I don't think we have it in our packets. Maybe. There we go.
Yeah.
We've done this, Donna, I know you remember this. I'm not sure if the rest of the council was seated at the time. We've done this before. Maybe you were seated at the time. But this is just a resolution appointing Chief Estes as the Director or Coordinator of Emergency Management. And this is, of course, if there's some sort of catastrophic event or some sort of natural disaster, et cetera, et cetera. Obviously, you're trained. And I bet Chief Holbrook is really, really sad to give up that title.
He's called me like 6 times. When's that resolution?
But it correlates with a plan that the county already has in place. Is that saying that correctly, Chief Estes? Yeah. And it just gives us a go-to person that's trained and primed and ready to go in the event that something like that happens. Does that make perfect sense? Muddy the waters a little bit. Would you like me to read that resolution, or it's purely just verbiage to appoint you to such called title? Give you another responsibility, if you will. So, council, if you all would be obliged, we
I'll
could
make that
motion. Motion by Vice Mayor
I'll
Quetch.
second that.
Second by Mr. Anderson. I don't think there's much discussion to be had, so Kim, if you'll please call the roll.
Mr. Owens?
Aye.
Mr. Anderson?
Aye.
Ms. Pillion?
Aye.
Ms. Quetch?
Aye.
And Mayor Webb?
Aye. Thank you for catching that.
He's got one.
Do you have another item on that?
Yeah,
section as
I
well?
did just wanted to mention real briefly, so I've been here since June, and I've been trying to really enjoy what we're going on here, and I've been trying to figure out little different things that we're doing. And so over the last month or so, I've really been trying to concentrate on how I'm going to move forward with what we are doing here. So there's a position in the budget for assistant town manager, and I've really looked hard, and I'm a huge fan on developing or working with the existing staff when and wherever possible. And so effective today, Myanna Rice, who those of y'all who have been here, so before I even took this job, I probably saw about 4 or 5 hours of Myanna on the Myanna show. So anyway, so it's effective today. So Myanna will be the assistant town manager, and she'll be supporting me on a lot of different roles. And she just, those of y'all already know her. She just does a phenomenal job in so many things that she does. But she's got a tremendous planning background. She has a bachelor's in soil and water science, which is really a great field. It's high demand. She has she also has a master's degree in urban planning, and urban planning, it's just her skill sets and my skill sets mirror each other, or pair up really well. So I'm really excited to have her here, and really excited to have her moving up to the 3rd floor soon. So she'll only just be a short bit down the hall. So we're just glad to have her, and she'll be overseeing some things for us. And so
Congratulations.
Was it?
Congratulations.
Yeah, so
That's
we've got a great team here, and I'm just really excited to have her as part of it.
Yeah, I think she's a great choice.
Yep.
And so congratulations, Mike.
Yep.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I will miss the Myanna show, so we're going to have to think of some way to get you back up presenting as often as possible. I guess I affectionately coined that one, the Myanna show. But no, in all seriousness, I think I can speak on behalf of the council when I say congratulations. I can't think of a better choice. You've done a very, very good job serving the town so far, and I look forward to seeing what kind of contribution you have, because I know it's going to be great, and you definitely are a steady hand, so I think that will compliment Mike Cochran, Mr. Cochran as well. So thank you for stepping up, and congratulations. Let's give her a hand. All right, am I missing anything else there?
No, I
That
think
pretty much does
we're, yeah, no, it's,
Okay.
yeah.
Good deal.
Yeah, we're good.
Congratulations. That's it. All right. And it is hard to follow up all those wonderful announcements and presentations, but council members, don't get disheartened. You have your opportunity with council member reports right now. Come on, I know somebody's got a report to make. No. Well, again, y'all probably get tired of hearing me talk. My wife does, I know. She says I like to talk too much, but really, we have had a fantastic run as a council. Everybody knows the election is looming in the background tomorrow, and of course, we're going to have some tussling. There's no doubt, but I can honestly say that it's been a pleasure to serve with you all by my side. And I appreciate all the hard work and dedication that you've put into the town. It's one of the things that makes the town so great, is having staff and council members that truly care and love the town. And I look forward to potentially serving with you for a lot longer. So thank you for what you do. Yeah, absolutely. All right. Not to get too emotional on everybody, because now we've got appointments to board and committees. First up, this is invigorating, Sustain Abingdon. We have reappointments. I don't think we're going to go into closed session. Council, is that okay? I think we've got this pretty well under wraps. Okay. So for first up, we got Sustain Abingdon. We've got the reappointment of Laura Pennington, who is eligible to serve an additional term and I think wants to do so. But we do have an expired term and an unexpired term that could potentially be filled. And then the Economic Development Authority, reappointment of Don Adams, who's eligible to serve an additional term. And then Tree Commission, reappointment of Muhammad Hasham, who is eligible to serve an additional term. Council, we can take these all up at one time if you wish. Since we only had one application for the Sustain Abingdon Committee, I think that's probably a fair choice.
Yep.
I would open the floor for appointments as we've just discussed.
I'll make a motion that we reappoint Laura Pennington to Sustain Abingdon, reappoint Don Adams to Economic Development Authority, reappoint Muhammad Hassam to Tree Commission, and table the other two appointments until further meetings.
Okay.
Of the Sustain Abingdon appointments.
Okay, fair enough. So we've got a motion by Mr. Owens to reappoint all those that we just discussed who are eligible, and table the other two appointments until we have two applicants. Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
Second by Mr. Anderson. Any discussion, council? Hearing none, Kim, if you'll please call the roll.
Mr. Owens?
Aye.
Mr. Anderson?
Aye.
Ms. Pillion?
Aye.
Ms. Quetch?
Aye.
And Mayor Wood?
Aye. As I said before, we don't have a closed session for tonight, so I guess unless I missed.
Say the Friday event
What's that?
Veteran.
about the veterans thing on Friday.
Oh, yes, we do. We have a special, and I forget, is it 11 o'clock?
Yes, sir.
Is that right?
Yes, sir.
Got it right, yes. We have a special ceremony that's going to happen on Friday, thank you, Cam, for reminding me, at Veterans Memorial Park. It will be coordinated by the Veterans Advisory Board, and we look forward. I'm going to get the opportunity to go out there, and I think there's actually some fifth grade classes coming out as well. So it should be an exciting day to see some smiling faces and let them learn a little bit about history and appreciate the veterans as I do. So if you get a chance, come out 11 o'clock on Friday, correct?
Yes, sir.
I said that correctly?
Yes,
Okay.
sir.
Excellent, excellent. Anything else I'm missing? Anything? All right, we're adjourned.